Jump Force DLC Season 2 or Character Pass 2 is finally here. Earlier this week, Shoto Todoroki was announced as the official My Hero Academia representative, along with the official confirmation of 5 DLC characters. We've known for a while that there would be at least 5 DLC characters coming to the game thanks to data mined methods, but it is very nice to have the official confirmation of exactly 5 DLC characters. There was some speculation going around whether there would be more or not, and it was hard to tell because, of course, data mining is just a process, and it could have turned out through a later patch that there was going to be more DLC characters. So now that we have the official confirmation, we know exactly how many characters are going to be there. I think the best news of all of this is that 3 of those slots are not going to be taken up by the cover franchises like we thought they would be. In fact, we even know the exact series that are going to be getting additional characters, those being Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho, Bleach, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So I wanted to dedicate a video where I go through each individual series and pick the characters that I think would be the most likely to take those slots. Now, I'm going to be mentioning multiple characters as I talk about these series, but I'll give you my definitive one, the one that I think stands the most chance. But keep in mind that when I talk about multiple characters, I think the chances of each of these characters are very, very close. So I wouldn't be surprised if I end up getting every character here wrong, but I mentioned the character that is right. Does that make sense? The information recently revealed makes predicting the DLC character roster a heck of a lot easier. I've said for a while now that I think Jump Force is near impossible to predict correctly. There's a few reasons for that. One, the game isn't based on any particular story, so you can't use the story as a reference to guide your predictions. But on top of that, there are so many different series in the game. I mean, there's 16 series, I believe there's 15 playable series, and I'm guessing a lot of their DLC character decisions are based on expectations of sales, which is something that's really hard for us as the audience to grasp without the internal numbers that they have available to them. And we're never going to have access to that, right? But now that we know the exact series that are going to be DLC, we have a much better idea of what that lineup should look like. So here is my predictions based on each of those series. One last thing I do want to mention though is a certain rumor that was floating around when the news about Season 2 initially dropped. A Japanese leaker leaked all the information that came from the Shonen Jump scan, or the V Jump scan. I don't know if it was a V Jump or Shonen Jump. It's not particularly important for this. But in that post where he had leaked that there were going to be all of these different series joining the game, he mentioned 2 characters. He mentioned Leorio and he mentioned AC/DC as the respective Hunter x Hunter and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character. Now, the leaker wasn't saying that those 2 characters would be joining the roster. He was just mentioning that it would be really nice if they were joining the roster because they were both voiced by Kaiji Fujiwara, who had recently passed away. Some news outlets had reported this as though the leaker was saying that those characters are in fact coming to the game, but that's not what the leaker was saying. The leaker was simply saying that it would be a nice way to honor the voice actor's memory. And yeah, it would be a fantastic way to honor his memory. But I won't be taking that into account for this video because I'm sure that these characters were decided far before the passing of Kaiji Fujiwara. Alright, let's get into it. We'll go in the order of the graphic that they released, so we'll start off with Hunter x Hunter. Realistically, I think there's 2 options to go with for Hunter x Hunter's DLC character slot, those being Chrollo and Meruem. There's also Pito, and I know a lot of people would like me to talk about Pito, but unfortunately, they already have clothing options in the game, so I'm not expecting them to show up as DLC because that's been the rule so far. If they have clothing in the game, they can't be DLC because DLC characters come with clothing. So the realistic options are Chrollo and Meruem, and honestly, I could see it going either way. These 2 characters are both popular, they both have different aesthetics that could work for the DLC character pack, but if I have to choose between the 2, I'm gonna go ahead and lean a little bit towards Meruem. Now for Yu Yu Hakusho, and let's not sugarcoat it, there are realistically 2 options, and no, one of them is not Kuwabara. It's likely Hiei or Kurama, though I certainly lean a lot closer to Hiei. Kurama still has a shot, but I think Hiei's got this one in the bag. Both characters are incredibly popular. Both characters are incredibly important to the Yu Yu Hakusho story. Hiei and Kurama both certainly deserve the slot, but I believe that Hiei will end up taking it. Next up is Bleach. Bleach is a bit of an awkward one because they have a few different directions they could go. The Bleach IP has a lot going on right now. My first few thoughts were Ukiyo, Byakuya, and Yuha. I checked with friends of mine that are really into Bleach, and they all seem to agree that those 3 picks would be the most likely. I don't feel strongly about the Bleach pick for either my predictions or my personal preference, but if I had to choose just one for this list, I guess I gotta go with Yuha. It seems like a solid pick to promote the new anime, and it's a character that people would like to see. Wow, and we managed to get to the last pick already. It's the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure pick. Honestly, I think this one's probably the most difficult to predict, which sounds kind of weird because I think a lot of people just expect expect it to be Giorno, but I think they could throw us a bit of a curveball. On one hand, they could continue to pull from part 3 characters. On the other hand, they could pull from characters from another part. I think a lot of people hear that there's going to be a new JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character in Jump Force, and they just think to themselves that it has to be Giorno, which I partially understand, because if we were having this discussion a year ago, it would make perfect sense. Giorno is the part 5 protagonist. Part 5 was being animated at the time. But bear with me for just a moment. If they do decide to stay within part 3, I would expect the character to be Old Man Joseph, which, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't be too excited for. There's also the possibility for Polnareff or Kakyoin, but I think Joseph would probably get that spot if they were staying within part 3. But personally, I don't even think they're going to use any more part 3 characters. Instead, I think they're going to reach beyond part 3, not backwards to part 1 or 2. And when we get to this part of the conversation where we assume that they're going to go past part 3, a lot of people want to jump to Giorno. But right now, when we're talking about Jump Force Season 2, we're in 2020 and we're almost halfway into 2020. Part 5 has been completely animated already. While I still think that Giorno stands a really good chance, and perhaps the best chance out of any of the JoJo characters I've mentioned up until this point, and even by the end of this video, he still might be the most likely. But I also want to mention Jolene. Jolene's Stone Ocean anime adaptation hasn't been announced yet, but it is an inevitability. I'm sure JoJo fans would be more than happy to have her in the game. It would be our only female representation in the entire DLC lineup, but on top of that, for non-JoJo fans, they would be seeing her design in Jump Force, possibly for the first time, and it would be a way to easily promote the character and plant the seeds for her eventual anime adaptation in the minds of non-JoJo fans. Honestly, I think the prediction between Jolene and Giorno is really, really close, and then closely behind them would be Old Man Joseph if they decide to stay within part 3. So there you go, that's my DLC prediction lineup. Now I know it's a bit messy because there's a lot of ifs and buts and maybe this and maybe that, but that's the way it is with these predictions. The characters at the top of the list, the ones that align with Shoto Todoroki, those are the ones that I would say are most likely, but all of the other ones listed are also characters I could totally see happening. It's also possible that they could just throw us a complete curveball and nobody on this list is going to be accurate. Who knows? I want to thank you so much for watching this video. My name's Bilbzy. I hope you have a safe and fantastic day, and I'll be sure to see you in the next video.